Thank you for tuning in to Grieving Voices. Today, my guest is Martika Wiley. She is an author, podcaster, and grief coach. Her path to become a grief coach became clear sometime after she wrote the book, Having Fun with God, a personal journey about death, loss, and how she's handled grief that transcended into peace of mind. Thank you so much for being my guest today, Martika.
Thank you so much, Victoria, for having me. It's an honor.
I know from reading just your information that you shared with me that, and as you know, obviously from your personal experience, and I as well, and for many guests that I've had on here, grief usually doesn't come once in our lifetime. And often by the time we reach adulthood, we've maybe had several that we may not even think about. A pet loss, for one, early in childhood is usually often a first loss. Um, so let's start in your childhood and the losses that you have experienced along the way and how they've shaped you.
hmm Well, thank you for letting me share. My first loss was when I was 15 years old and my mom committed suicide. I had no experience with death or loss at that time, so it hit me pretty hard. It was really, didn't want to live anymore. I was quite suicidal. I had a divine, experience that prevented me from killing myself. And but her death kind of had a domino effect because her mom, my grandmother, took her death pretty hard. I think she might have felt a bit guilty, because there was, events leading up to her committing suicide. People sometimes do reach out for help, and if others don't see it as, well, you can get over it, it's not a big deal, and that sort of thing, and then they lose their child even though she was an adult. It was just a bit of a domino effect. Like my nana, she had an asthma attack, and then 2 years after her death, my grandfather passed away. He just kind of gave up living, so it was like cataracts, and then it was, his kidneys, and it was his liver, and once a major organ starts going in, at the age of, in his early 70s, when somebody's kind of given up and they want to go, right? You cannot try to save people in that aspect. You have to respect, okay, he would always say, I've lived a good long life, and here's what I want you to do with the money that you'll inherit, and that sort of thing. And then about 2 years after my grandfather died, my uncle died in a car accident. He was pretty young. He was 42, which was interesting because my mom was also 42 when she died. And so after my uncle passing, I realized, I don't have a lot of family on my mother's side. It's a smaller knit family. So I decided to find my father. My parents divorced when I was young. I was about 3 years old. And so in search of my father, and I knew he was from the Bahamas, so he'd be in the Bahamas somewhere, and it's a fairly small compared to Canada. So I didn't think it'd be hard finding him, but it took 2 months to find him. And when I did, I was informed that he died 2 days ago. So I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I thought, what, I wondered about God. I'm not religious, but I do believe in spirit. So, um, but when my father had passed, that's when I realized I had, excuse me, four older sisters, and they had children. And so it was interesting. I had lost these people, all these family members, but then also gained family members. And, sitting with that, because the voice did say, God doesn't take away without giving back. And I thought, okay, well, that makes sense to me. At the time, I was still kind of devastated, but I got to meet all four of my sisters and their children, and it was like instant family. Going from raised in a small knit family to having like several siblings and then their kids and then cousins and just extended family. It was like, whoa, trying to meet everyone and remember their names. It was quite something. It kind of took away from all the grief of the loss that I had. But then again in life, you never get away from it. I thought after my father had died, I wouldn't have to experience a loss for a while, and then a few years, well, several years after my father died, my cousin Nikki committed suicide. She was 15 and she hung herself. I found her. And that was, again, very traumatic because, you're not expecting to find someone hanging there. And even though there were signs of her, threatening to do something, I didn't believe that she would. You know how teenagers could, I'm going to go run, I'm going to run away, I'm going to not coming back. She was very rebellious, and so um, yeah, that took its toll on me. And instead of getting therapy or counseling, I took off to the Bahamas. I just wanted out of Canada, just away from it all, and learned about my roots, my father's side. Since he wasn't around, I still have family there. And it wasn't until I came back from the Bahamas in 2006 actually that I actually started writing. It was automatic writing. It was, felt like I was being used, like spirit was using me to write. And with that came the book Having Fun with God, and a lot of forgiveness, a lot of healing, a lot of understanding, peace of mind. Like, it was the greatest gift. It was better than, I mean, counseling is good, but at that time I just wasn't feeling the need for it. But I found the writing to be super therapeutic. I did not know that. No one told me, hey, do some writing, even if it's journaling, writing what you're grateful for or just how you feel, even if you're angry. Sometimes my writing wouldn't be writing, it would just be a bunch of lines that have been very angrily marked on the page, just to get some of that anger out. But then it led me to helping others with their grief. I took a couple of courses in college. One was just Psychology 101. The other one was personal growth, but we touched on the stages of grief. And then we were to write about, when we lost someone, and writing something out and reading it out loud to yourself is one thing. But then when you go to class and you're asked to stand up in front of the class and read it out loud, whoa. Yeah, emotions big time. And of course, I ran to my seat after I was done. I didn't want to take any questions. But people were amazed, like, how did you get through all that? And I thought, well, it must have been the grace of God, because I mean, I was very suicidal. I was very reckless. I look back and I think about some of the things that I've done, and like, how did I live through that? Driving in a blizzard up north, doing 120 kilometers an hour in the fast lane while everybody's driving slow. I just didn't give two flying figurines. I'm like, whatever. If I die, that's okay. Like, I just had a death wish. And I think people around me could see it, because when my cousin Nikki died, some of the family friends thought it was me that had committed suicide. Yeah, so I thought, okay, so y'all saw that I was suicidal and didn't do anything about it. That's really good to know, but sometimes people think, well, it's out of our hands or out of my hands, and whatever they're thinking, I mean, there's no judgment around it. But and now it's because I've started to thrive after, and talking to spirit, how could I serve? What do I know a lot about that I've experienced that I could help others? And a voice saying, a lot about death and loss, kept coming up. I didn't want to teach about death and loss. I was heavily involved in the music industry. I have recorded a few songs, and music was my life. It made me feel good. It's part of the healing process as well. But yeah, death and loss kept coming up, and the music industry thing, there was always a brick wall at the end of the road. So I kind of threw my hands up in the air and I thought, okay, I'm here to serve you. Your wish is my command. I would say to the universe, your wish is my command. So this is, yeah. And of course, I've started a podcast about a year and a half ago, and I speak to other psychologists, mediums, death doulas, caregivers, and discussing about ways to help others in their grief, and just sharing experiences and people that have overcome it. And overcoming meaning, excuse me, they're no longer in the depths of despair. They've taken that grief and they've flourished from it. And I'm hoping that others that are feeling, like they don't want to live anymore, that there is hope, that they too can overcome these negative feelings or confused feelings.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And it is a lot
Mhm.
in a young life. What, because that your mother died when you were 15. How old were you when you found your cousin Nikki?
I was 33.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of loss in that time. Can I circle back to what you said about having a divine experience? Because I'm really curious about that. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Okay, yeah, sure. Well, I guess it was about maybe a few days and maybe a week after my mom passed. I was first year of high school. Um, she died about a week before the March break. So I had that week off school to grieve. And then there was the March break. And I was alone in the apartment. My stepfather was always away. He was, at work or whatnot. And I just felt so empty. I felt like a walking corpse. I didn't want to be here anymore. I couldn't imagine living without her. So we tend to sometimes follow people. Like if somebody has hung themselves, well, we want to hang ourselves. My mom, she jumped off a bridge and landed in the provincial park. And so we lived in a high-rise building. We lived on the 20th floor, and the windows didn't have screens on them, though we were fighting with the landlord about putting screens in because anyone could just fall out of there. And so I just opened the sliding window and I stood in the frame, and all it would have taken is one step, 20 stories, I'd be with her. And I took that step, and a force of some kind pushed me back into the living room. And a wave of this knowingness and peace came over me. And a voice said, "You are not meant to follow and therefore must live on." And the feeling that I got from that was it didn't matter what I did, there would always be something or someone to stop me from ending my life. And it's funny because in my 30s, in my late 20s and 30s, I put to the test. I put myself in some dangerous situations just to see if that was true. Sounds crazy, but when you're suicidal, like, reckless, then you're willing. I knew physically I couldn't kill myself, so I just tried other ways. I tried offending God. According to Catholic religion, offending God is, you go to Hades for that sort of thing. So I thought, okay, well, hell's got to be better than this place. So I would try to offend God through thoughts, deeds, and actions. And it was, excuse me, I'm emotional. Living in downtown Toronto in my late 20s, and I used to stumble home from the bars at night. And this one evening, I remember, going into my apartment thinking, why am I still here? How come I'm still alive? Have I not offended you? And then I heard a voice saying, I love you unconditionally. You can never offend me. And that's when I knew that this God was truly unconditionally loving. And it didn't matter what I did. I mean, I could have went out and killed thousands of people and I still would have been loved. And so I stopped offending God because it wasn't working. And I just kind of accepted the fate that, I'm still here. There's some reason why. I did not know what that was because, at that age, I was still kind of figuring things out. And so I just did a lot of meditating. I started reading Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. I read book 1, 2, and 3, several more of his books. And that just kind of opened my mind a little bit more about our relationship with spirit. And so I just started to, to live more, to because who knows when I'm going to go. And so I better appreciate what I have. And just, you know, being able to talk to spirit, and not just that, but knowing that my mom is still with me spiritually. She very much so. And I think the more I acknowledge her, the less she sends signs. I know she's with that. She used to send signs quite a bit. She used to um mess with the lights, I guess you could say, the flickering of lights. I had the ceiling light on, and that was flickering on and off. So I tried to adjust it, and it would kept flickering. And I thought, well, something's wrong with the circuit board or something. So I turned it off and I put a lamp on. Well, then that started flickering. And I said to her, I said, Mom, if that's you, um, thank you for letting me know you're here, but that's freaking me out. So stop doing that. So she did. So she did. Now I've not gone to mediums to talk about, my mom and what she has to say or anything like that, probably because I, was open, and, she would show up in dreams, that sort of thing. Um, but yeah, she's very much, in my life. She's, they can be very influential, our loved ones on the other side. And it just goes to show you that, you can't kill energy. We're spiritual beings having a human experience, and we're immortal. So anyone says that we're mortal and we're not, it can be easily whatever. Well, that's their story, but spirit does live on. I've had my grandfather show up in a dream. I've had my uncle show up in a dream. I've had my father show up in dreams. And so anytime I see them in dreams, like if I'm feeling, there's one moment, I think it was around the time Nikki died, and I was feeling so sorrowful. I was just suffering. I've never felt such sorrow. I cried myself to sleep, but I don't remember ever doing that. Well, maybe when I was a kid and I wanted to stay up late, but this was a real sorrow. And when I was sleeping in the dream, my father was lying next to me, and he had his hand on my waist. And as I was waking up, he was fading away. And I had the most joyful feeling. It was like a 180, like going to bed sorrowful, crying myself to sleep, not knowing why I'm here. I can't kill myself. Why did Nikki get to kill herself and I didn't? I mean, I was really angry with God about a few things. And that morning I was skipping, like I was like, woo, like, like jubilation. And I remember calling my sister, telling her, I said, I saw our dad, and he came to me last night, because he came to her too. And, he would say to her, everything is going to be okay. Don't worry. Everything's all right. Because my sister used to worry quite a bit. And so I find it comforting when they come to us and let us know that they're okay, and that they're watching over us and guiding us and helping us. So that has helped me, along with, as far as, grief, because no, I don't think anyone wants to stay in that kind of pain forever. But, they say in life, no pain, no gain, which is so true. To be happy all the time and content, we wouldn't grow if that was the case. So pain really serves as a catalyst for growth. So once I understood that on a deeper level, I'm like, oh, okay, this all makes sense, to help me so that I could help others, and, just become stronger.
Um, I've been taking notes because there's so many good things you mentioned that I want to circle back to. And I love how you said first that you can't kill energy. Like, okay, I've never heard that. No one's ever said that. You're the first person that's ever said it in that way, like about our loved ones who have departed, like their energy. That resonates with me. I'm a Reiki master and I, understand energy and things, but I'd never really thought of it in that way, right?
Mhm.
Um, I want to ask you too. So, what was your relationship with God, spirit, whatever you call it, if you're listening to this? What was your relationship like that with that? Um, that knowing, right, that you
Mhm.
experienced after that moment of standing in the window. What was your relationship before that? Like, did you
Mm.
grow up in a faith-based
Y- y-
home? And
Yeah, my mom was very into going to church every Sunday. It was with Catholic religion. And I used to talk to God all the time. And I would hear a voice answer me. Sometimes in this one particular moment, I was the first year of high school. This would have been maybe months before my mom passed. Just as I was dozing off to go to sleep, I heard a voice say, "What are the primary colors?" And I thought about it for a moment. I thought, red, yellow, blue. I thought about green. I thought, no, green is yellow and blue together. Orange, no, that's red and yellow together. So I thought red, yellow, and blue. And I heard that's right. And I thought, well, why are you asking me this question? And I heard nothing. I went to sleep. The next morning, the first class was art class, and the teacher asked, "What are the primary colors?" I was too shy to answer that question, even though I knew the answer. No one wanted to answer. We're so shy. We're teenagers are so cute and we're so shy. Finally, somebody answered, and we're all like, we all breathed a sigh of relief. Um, but that was kind of our relationship. Like this one would help me out. It would, like my stepfather, for example, was very abusive. Okay, he used to hit us, and I heard a voice say, "The next time he comes at you, run to the front door and go down the stairs." And I did. I did when he tried to come after me. Do you know that he stopped abusing me after that? And so I don't know whether at that time I would call it God. I did not know what that voice was because, according to the Catholic priest at that time, saying if you're hearing a voice, then it's probably the devil tricking you. You had to be ordained, you had to be male. I mean, it wasn't said straight out like that, but that's what the feeling you got. So I remember going home from church one time and asking it, "Are you the devil? I need to know." And I got no answer. So I came off my bed and I was walking out of my room and I heard, "I'm not the devil." And I thought, even if you are, you're good. You don't say anything, to me for me to do anything harmful to anyone. But after my mom died, the relationship I had with God was a little estranged. I thought God had a weird sense of humor because I did pray for God to help my mom get out of the marriage. And she did. She did get out, but it took her life. And I felt very angry. I used to play a song by Depeche Mode called Blasphemous Rumors. And the chorus went, "I don't want to start any blasphemous rumors, but I think that God's got a sixth sense of humor. And when I die, I expect to find him laughing." And I would play that song over and over again. And I'd say, "God, this one's for you." Yeah. And I would dedicate it to God every time. And it was just estranged. And for a while, I just didn't really acknowledge. And of course, I stopped going to church because, according to Catholic religion, committing suicide is a sin, and you go to straight to hell. I never believed my mom went to hell for wanting to get out of a terrible relationship. So I rejected a lot of what was being said, and I was always kind of um, some of it didn't make any sense to me. For example, abstaining from sex. Priests were not allowed to have sexual intercourse, and I thought, well, we're sexual beings. How are they? If they're repressing that? I mean, I didn't know anything at 10, 11, 15, whatever years old, but my intuition was saying that would probably breed abnormal sexual behavior. And then, of course, it started to come out in my early 20s, a movie called The Boys of St. Vincent, which was, I believe, a Canadian made for TV movie, and it was about men in their 40s coming out. They were altar boys. They were molested by their priest. And that did not surprise me. I did not watch the movie because I just couldn't, I couldn't, I just couldn't, just the thought of, and then I just left the religion after that because there were too many contradictions. It didn't make sense. And I didn't believe that's how God was. But now I have a better relationship with spirit. I do talk to God all the time, whether you call it Jah, Allah, Buddha, Allah. It's the same thing. It's spirit, source energy. But yeah, I just turn to it all the time for guidance and wisdom because the world's pretty darn crazy. And I think it's so important to listen to your intuition, which is spirit talking to that feeling, that gut feeling, that hunch, whatever you want to call it. Because anytime I don't listen to it, I kick myself. Why didn't I lock the door before I left? Now somebody's broken in. I never locked it before, but that one morning it says, hey, you should lock it. And I'm like, no, I never had issue before. And that's what happened. Now, nothing was taken. And even if something was taken, spirit would remind me you can't take anything you can't take from someone who always has.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. And so if somebody takes something from me, that voice would say, you can't take from someone who always has. And they obviously needed it more than you did. So you just kind of let it go.
I love that. Yeah, I love that so much. What do you think has been the greatest teacher of your grief in all of this?
Well, that's a good question. I have to think on that. Probably that we're all gonna go. We're all gonna go. That we don't know when though. I mean, we assume that when we're older that we're gonna go before somebody who's younger, and that's always not the case. That's not always the case. I could be hit by a bus tomorrow, or some kind of freak accident, or have a reaction to something I never thought I would. Um, but just knowing that we are spiritual beings and that we do still live on, we're still creating in the afterlife. Because I've had conversations with people that, oh, once I'm dead, I'm dead. And I'm like, okay, well, you're going to be one of those ghost people, that just go into the light. That's where all the fun is. That's where God is. I've experienced the light more than one occasion. And I've most people that have experienced it will say they're not afraid of death. It's like the easiest thing to do. It's like a breath of fresh air, one teacher was saying. It's like, loosening up a tight shoe. It really is. I mean, my experience of it, because I was so, really wanting to go home. I didn't want to be here. And I'd always talk to God, like, why? I mean, come on, you've got all these children, you don't need all of us here. Like, can I not go home? And I did have a glimpse of it. I think spirit was like, okay, we'll give you a taste test. Um, and it was amazing. It was amazing. All I saw was nothing but light. It was like a soft yellow, but it was everywhere. And that's all I saw. I had no body. I was formless. I didn't have to worry about dressing or eating or paying bills, being anywhere at a certain time. It was amazing. I mean, the words are so limiting compared to the experience. And ever since then, to be honest, I was a little bit more suicidal, and I wasn't sure if God was just having fun with me, like, let's see how this one reacts, give her a taste test, kind of peeking at your Christmas presents the night before and and getting really all excited about it. But yeah, it's just it's really something to look forward to. I know that sounds morbid, but who really wants to live to be 150, when your body starts to, you can't do anything anymore. So you kind of want that. You just want to be able to experience just going home. And the other thing too, and this was from my father's passing, we all get a homecoming party. My father, about 2 days after he died, came to me in a cloud, and he had his arms stretched out as if to embrace me. And of course, at that time, I was still angry with him, so I pushed him away. But then he's very determined. He came back a few days later, and in the dream, he was. We were in the kitchen. He was leaning against the counter with the sink, and I was leaning against the other counter. It's an L-shaped counter, and um, I looked behind where the dining room table was, and there was empty dishes. They were filled. There was crumbs. There was a bit of sauce left over. And then when I looked around the living room, all the furniture had been pushed against the wall, and there were balloons and streamers and empty glasses and bottles. You could tell a party had taken place. And I looked at him and I realized, he was trying to invite me to his homecoming party. And I said to him, "I'm so sorry I missed your party because of my anger." And he said, "That's okay. You're here now. You made it to the after party." And I said, "Yeah, that's right. This is after the party." And once I forgave him, I started feeling hungry. I said, "Is there anything left over?" He says, "No, all the food's been eaten, but there's a bit of popcorn in that bowl behind you." And I looked, and there was a bowl of popcorn there. And I'm not a huge popcorn eater. And so I looked at the popcorn. I thought, popcorn for breakfast? Because it was morning time. And I said, "What kind of father are you offering your daughter popcorn for breakfast?" And then I went off about this popcorn for breakfast. And I stormed out of the kitchen, and he says, "You're so stubborn." And I said, "Where do you think I get it from?" And the dream ended. I woke up jubilated. I was like, even though we had a little bit of a spat, it was just, when people spat, it's really their way of loving each other. You see the love behind all the bickering. And I thought, wow, I saw my father again. That was awesome. And I have now experienced that we do have a homecoming party, because I've heard it before in other readings, if you will, other programs, if you will, other conversations of people that have channeled other spirits saying, yes, we get a homecoming party. And so I'm looking forward to mine. I think it'd be awesome. Everyone's going to be there, and everyone's invited. Yeah. Yeah. This homecoming party.
So
Mhm.
how do you live with that deep desire to go home?
Oh, well, well, I try to remind myself to enjoy this moment, enjoy why I'm here, and really kind of do what I'm supposed to do here, if that makes any sense. And sometimes I know, and sometimes I don't know. Because I think when you make a command to the universe, to spirit, use me, you have no idea. Like when I first said that, use me, when I was 23, because I'd seen the light, I had a glimpse of it. This book came out, Having Fun with God. And honestly, there was a day that I was in a trance mostly writing it. Um, but one afternoon I said, okay, wait a minute, why am I writing? Why aren't I in the studio producing a genre of music that's no one's ever heard of, that everyone loves, instead I'm writing. And then that voice said, "Well, you said I could use you." And I totally forgotten, because years had passed. I was in my 20s. Now I'm in my 30s when I was writing, or 40s. And I said to spirit, I said, "But we could reach more people through music than we can through words." And I heard nothing. And I thought, okay, so you want to write, fine. And so I continued writing. And I've been since then, keep saying, use me, use me. So I have no idea what that's going to look like when you make a command like that, because life is always listening. Spirit always hears us and answers our prayers. Your wish is my command. And so it's interesting. I have no idea. All I know is that I enjoy doing the podcasting. I enjoy counseling people with their grief. um I enjoy cleaning and helping those who can't do for themselves. And who knows where I have my own desires and my own plans in my head, but spirit has a way of saying, forget that, here's what we're going to do instead. So I'm just kind of going with the godly flow, if you will. I do make plans, but then, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. So I really don't know, how much longer I have, or I mean, I still have the next book to write. In this book, I do give a sample of the book to come, which I still haven't written yet. I need to get that done. Um, but I've also written children's books. They're not out yet. Everything kind of takes time and money. So, um, but yeah, right now in this moment, yeah, I've been asking for a lot of guidance and wisdom because of all the changes that have been going on in the world, and what my role is. How could I help others with their grief?
May I ask, because I'm just personally curious,
Mhm.
how has all of this loss in your life and obviously your deep relationship with spirit or God, how has that translated into this might seem like a weird question, but I don't know why I'm asking this honestly.
Mhm.
But how is that translated into um intimacy and relationships with people?
Mhm.
Because I'm curious about that because I think what sometimes and what I wonder too is um, when people have such a really strong faith, right? Really strong faith. Um, Sometimes people can say to other grievers, just pray about it, or, and but praying doesn't, there's like, it's an action, right? You're taking an action, but you don't get the answer, right? You don't necessarily get the answer of, uh, what to do next. And I know it's like listening to your intuition, and you had said like your intuition is really spirit coming through you. um but how is all of this and that deep relationship with spirit translated to, because what I think can happen sometimes is that we get comfortable, and then it can also become a barrier, or like this wall that we put up to other people for in intimacy, right? And I'm not
Mhm.
talking like love relationships only, although that's included, but like deep intimacy. Because when you've had so much loss,
Mhm.
you can,
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Be
Yeah.
afraid to let yourself
Yeah.
really deeply connect with people because of out of fear of losing them too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've been through that too. I don't want to get too close to people because of, you might lose them. Yeah, so I've experienced that, but then that intuition would be saying to me, well, then you're never going to have really good relationships if you live like that. That's not living either. You can't be afraid that everyone around you is going to die constantly, be in constant fear of that. So I just try to enjoy the moment as much as I can. Just to look at the person and before me and say, wow, this is a unique individual. There's no one like this person. This one is God also. This person, whether they realize it or not, they're their own creators of their own lives. So I try to take that all into consideration, but that is a good question because I did at one point kind of distance myself. I was accused of having walls up. You have a wall up, someone would say. I'm like, yeah, okay. And what's your point? Obviously, I have it up because of protecting myself from the hurt,
Mhm.
from the pain. So, but this is what writing has helped me with, kind of letting go of the fear, if you will, of someone close to me dying. You know, um, I mean, recently I've had my cat Dash pass away, and I didn't think he would die so soon. I thought Ashley would go before him because Ashley's older. But when I had three cats, so when Tasha passed, I thought, okay, so now I'm down to two. And I thought Ashley would go next and Dash, and we can communicate with our cats. He said, no, I'll be next. And I ignored it because I'm thinking, oh, he's just talking crazy talk. But yes, he did go next. So, um, And he's come to me in my dreams. I commanded him to come. I demanded it. I need to see you. And 3 times he showed up. Yep. So he heard me. They can hear us. They can hear us on the other side. Oh yeah, big time. Yeah, sometimes I'll ask my mom, I can't find my bathing suit. Where is it? And there it was. Like I had a flash in my head of where it was. And that's where it was. So when you realize, and it's just part of growing, for me, it helps ease the pain to know that they're still with us. They're not really gone. Um, and to be able to talk to them and talk about them from time to time. I mean, some other people might be uncomfortable, but I'm not uncomfortable talking about my mom or dad. Um, it used to be a joke, when people say, well, where are your parents? And I would say, well, they both passed. And I say, well, I'm an orphan. Who wants to adopt me? And just because, people would get really serious, and I wasn't in I wasn't in that state of being serious. I was in a state of really enjoying my life. I'm enjoying this moment. You're going to ask me about something that, was in the past painful. I sometimes make light of it, and then people just look at me like maybe I'm insensitive. But again, what other people are thinking isn't really my main concern. Um, I do sometimes do make light of it, but yeah, it's just, knowing that they're still there. Like my father, I haven't seen him in a while, but I'm pretty sure he thinks, okay, she's all right. I'm going to go off and do some of this work because I know her mom's there, which is typical, right? Typical male off doing something else while mother is always watching over. Yeah.
Uh, I know, like before we recorded, you had mentioned, your cats and the two passing now, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Tasha passed 4 years ago, but it's Dash passed a couple months ago. But Ashley looks like she's an older cat. She kind of shakes a bit, when she sits, she just shakes and try to get her balance. So, and I don't know how old she is. See, I adopted her at the Humane Society, and I don't know if they intentionally lied about her age. They might not have known, so they guessed maybe 3 months. She's a small cat. I thought she was still a kitten. But after, a few months of having her, she went into heat, and I'm thinking, I don't know if kittens go into heat. And but she was older. She's still the same size. She hasn't grown any bigger. So that's when I realized, okay, so, and I've had her for what, 16, going on 17 years now. So
Wow.
she's up there. She's up there, but
Wow.
she's showing the signs, of old age. So I know it's just a matter of time before she goes. I don't want her to go either. I mean, no one wants anybody going, but that's really not very realistic. So,
Well,
mhm,
and like we've talked about, and the reason why too I asked, and I kind of just alluded to, but like relationships with love relationships, and how sometimes too, like pets can become this barrier to the intimacy and other relationships of because animals don't talk back, right? They don't
mhm,
disappoint you. They
mhm,
love unconditionally,
mhm,
you know. So that's kind of partly why I was going that direction in the
mhm,
conversation. Do you have anything to share on that you're open to sharing?
mhm. Well, yeah, I mean, pets are great in that aspect. But then when you're dealing with people, and I remember reading this in the book called Mastery of Love, that cats are who they are. You don't expect them to be like dogs. And that's how people are. If somebody has a certain personality, to think that they're going to change into another type of personality is expecting the cat to be like a dog. So it's just about accepting people where they're at in their life, and not try to take what they say too personally. And I'm still working on that. I mean I'm still a work in progress. um so I try not to make anything more than it is. I try to kind of put myself first more and more, which I know others would say that's really selfish. but I've had way too many teachers that are very advanced when it comes to spirituality. They all say the same thing: put yourself first, love yourself first. Everything begins from within. And once you get that and kind of tune out all that, oh, you're supposed to look after me and do all that kind of stuff, looking out for number one is looking out for number two. Because if you cannot fill from an empty cup, right? Or pour from an empty cup. So I find when I'm doing this work, because I'm doing this work, I've had a lot of people, strangers even, you know, I'm really grateful for the work you do. And I'm like, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. So I try to make a point to say that to the guests that are on my podcast, to acknowledge their, because it's not easy. It is not easy at all. It's very, very draining. I find in the evening times, after a certain time, I'm not looking at emails, I'm not checking phone messages. It's my time. Evening time is my time. And if you don't like it, well, I don't know, just deal with it. It's just my time. Because I don't want to wake up the next day being irritable and bitchy, because I've done that. I was with family one time. I spent a whole month, I think, down in Florida visiting my sister. There's a lot of family down there. And I remember feeling really irritated and irritable. And I asked myself, what's going on? Why are you irritable? Are you hungry? Do you need more sleep? I thought, no. And then the question was, well, when was the last time you spent some me time? And I thought, that's what it is. I need to just spend some quiet time to myself. And once I did that, I wasn't irritable anymore. You see what I'm saying? It's the same thing about being selfish and loving yourself first. So we've been taught to give, 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 and put other people first and then yourself last. And it's so backwards. There's a lot of things we do in this society that is backwards. For example, we should be mourning birth and celebrating death instead of the other way around. But that's not going to change. We're so entrenched in our customs, if you will, our beliefs. But it's true, we should always be celebrating death. Although the reason why we mourn is because we're left behind.
Mhm.
Like anytime I talk to God about, well, you know, a mentor of mine just passed not too long ago. And I've been still teary eyed about it, but I'm grateful for him. I mean, he has nothing to worry about anymore. You know, he's doesn't have to do anything. But, you know, what about the rest of us? Well, who's going to guide us and lead us? And who's going to tell us, what to do or what not to do? And so, yeah, it just again lights a bit of a fire under my butt to get out there and do what I need to do before, because you don't know when your time is ready. You don't know. So I try. It's balanced, because there are relationships that have been a little bit toxic, and like, okay, do I reach out to that person? They're a little bit toxic. You know, I don't want to, ricochet back into now I've got to, you know, heal all over again, that sort of thing. So again, this is where I kind of go within and listen to the inner voice. Okay, what should I do about this situation? You know, how to handle this or in that sort of thing.
Can you speak to a little bit what you said about mourning birth?
Oh yeah.
What you meant by that?
Well, when we come into this physical realm, we're separated, if you will, from the light, separated from the love, that all encompassing love. And we're having to forget. We're in this forgetfulness of who we are. And sometimes we can go through a whole lifetime and not remember who we are, or not even be awake. So that's what I mean by the mourning, and going through the trials and tribulations that we all go through. Like, I mean, some of the stories I've heard from other people are heartbreaking. Like this one young man who's lost his mother, committed suicide. He was 6 months old. So he never had that, bond with his mom. And my heart went out to him. I just wanted to give him a hug. And this is what I mean. And then when we pass, well, we're going right back home. We're going right back to the love. And so it's a wonderful experience, but we're not taught that in this society. We're taught to fear death. And when you don't fear death, really it changes the game. I've had people like in a jokingly way, because I'm short and I'm little, and you get a coworker just messing with you saying, "What are you gonna do about it?" And they stand over you, right? And I'm like, I smile and say, "Don't ever underestimate size." And they look at me like, "Oh my gosh, she's crazy." She doesn't have any fear. And yeah, but it takes that fear away. When fear is gone, then you could live. You can really live, and you really laugh, and life just seems to be more richer, when you release all that fear of what's around the corner, and it's the fear of the unknown. But once you have a sneak peek, if a taste test, if you will, of the other side, and see how awesome it is, you'd never fear death. For me, I wanted it more, but now because that's been years ago, I still look forward to it, but it's not something I brag about and announce on a daily basis, because then people would start to think I'm suicidal again, which I'm not. I just know that what waits for us is is some great reward. It's awesome. And I always imagine my homecoming party. Everyone, yeah, it'd be awesome. Like all the fam, everyone that we know personally, like famous people, they're all there, all of them welcoming us, and the pets. Oh, the pets. I think about the pets that are there. Yeah. So, and this is my imagination, of course. I have no proof of any of this, but just what I've experienced. So this is why I look forward to it. But I don't want to go before my pets, because then I'm concerned, okay, well, they're left behind. Who's going to look after them? That sort of thing. So um yeah, I stay around for, I wouldn't want to leave them behind, or any unfinished work that I needed to do behind. Hmm.
The vision that comes to my mind as I was listening to you talking is it just feels like we're adults in training pants, and we're all learning how to come back to that self-love, and we're all learning how to embrace the unconditional love that is there waiting for us. And so many of us look to some outside source for that. And yeah, I just think we're all in these training pants of, that's what life is to help you to come back to yourself and
Hmm.
um yeah, feel whole in that moment when you do go to the other side,
Hmm.
perhaps.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you consider yourself a highly sensitive person,
Mm.
empath, highly sensitive?
Yeah, I never used to, but I remember reading a few articles about, what it is to be an empath, the signs, the feelings, and I thought, yeah, I'm very sensitive. I remember calling one of my moms. When my mom died, I inherited five moms. Okay, two aunts, a lady that helped raise me, one of my mom's best friend, and another lady that adopted me when I was 20 years old. And
Oh,
it was 20. I said to her name's Diane, and I said, Diane, how old are you? She goes, I'm 31. I said, well, I'm 20. That's only 11 years difference. She goes, oh, let me have this. I've always wanted a data. She has her Jamaican accent. And it was her. I could feel her praying for me. It was one evening, and I don't usually call her in the evenings. It's usually on weekends. But this one evening I called her, and she goes, oh, I was just praying for you. And I said, I know, that's why I called. And there was silence. I said, you don't believe me, do you? Because she's kind of skeptical about that kind of stuff. A lot of people are. And she
mhm.
goes, no, I believe you. And I'm like, okay, it doesn't matter. But I called because I felt you were praying for me, and I wanted to thank you. Yeah. So, but yeah,
Do you think you're a bit of a medium?
I was talking to a lady that is a medium on my podcast, and I expressed an interest in getting to take a course on that, and to just fine tune it, because a lot of people that grieve, the first person they go to is a medium, and then maybe they'll get the counseling or coaching. So, but that's another thing I'm gonna look into, is the medium, because yeah.
I think that's a lot of the reason why people do that is just from conversations I've had and the work that I've done and my own personal experience is I think there's a lot of incomplete feelings, right? And so we're looking for some sort of closure, resolution. Not maybe closure might not be the right word, but I think it brings comfort to a lot of people um, who might be skeptical
Mhm. Oh,
of
yeah.
what's on the other side, right? Like
Mhm.
it could be affirming for them. It could actually make people uncomfortable. Like that was too much, right? I
Mhm.
think you just have to be open to receive. And I think if you're going to a medium, you're obviously open to receiving something, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, you're obviously very open, and that's why you've done the things that you've done and had, the experiences you've had. Um, is there anything else that, because you shared, this is such a rich conversation. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you would like to share with my audience?
Well, yes. I guess when it comes to death and loss, that you're not alone. There are lots of resources. There's Facebook groups. There's probably maybe groups in the area. I don't know how things are in the States. I think you're in the States. If things are opened up, hopefully, because it's I think it's best to get together with people so you can get hugs. Hugs are so therapeutic. Oh my God. I love hugs. And so um, but yeah, just asking for the guidance, asking for whatever you need, you will get. Just ask and you shall receive. It's so, so simple. Like for me, somebody read my book and said to me, wow, you're really strong, you've got a lot of strength. And after she said that, I thought, well, where did I get that? And I remember going back to that, and I asked for it. I didn't just ask for it, I demanded it. Oh, yeah, I demanded. I'll demand sometimes. I'll just talk to God like God's my servant. Give me this and give me that. Well, in a kind way, but I will just command the strength because I didn't have strength to carry on. And so I just commanded it. And that's where I got the strength. But you could command anything, ask for anything.
In grief recovery, we talk about, well, one of the myths of grief is be strong. And
Mhm,
it's something that, and I've asked the question lately on the podcast, like, what does it mean to be strong? Like, what does that really actually mean?
mhm,
Because we can be strong or we can be human. We're not robots. And to put on a front that I'm fine and I'm okay, when really inside we're a mess, which is
mhm,
okay too, right?
mhm.
So I guess what is your answer to that? Like, what does it mean to be strong to
That's a
you?
good question. I think it means acknowledging that you aren't always strong, that you're feeling the emotions and allowing the emotions instead of resisting it. If you feel angry, it's okay, be angry. Punch a pillow, go for a walk. I don't know, do something that'll help you relieve that energy because it'll affect you physically. You don't want disease, not at this time, you know. Um, but yeah, it just means just allowing yourself to be how you're feeling. And in knowing what you need and knowing also to what your limitations are. I mean, there may be days when you just don't want to get out of bed. Honor it, honor your feelings. You just honor what it is, whatever it is that you're feeling, because that is part of the healing. Healing is feeling, or feeling is healing. Somebody said that to me once. It's so true. Feeling is healing. So for me, that is strength. Just knowing what you need and how to honor yourself. And yeah, because some people, they have no clue of how to go about certain things. And but I do believe our loved ones in spirit are always with us, guiding us, whether we realize it or not. We might not see the signs or feel them or sense them or see them in dreams, but they're there. They're there.
Um, so share a little bit where people can connect with you and find your work and work with you and Yeah.
Mhm.
Please share.
Well, they can connect with me via email, grievewiththese@gmail.com to reach out. I also have a website, grievewiththese.com.
Can they connect with you through your website? Do you have a contact?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I do have contact page on the website. Um, I do have a book called Having Fun with God. You could either buy it on Amazon, get the paperback, or you could order, get the free ebook on the website. It's on the main page.
And your podcast?
Yes, I almost forgot. Yeah, and I do have a podcast. That's also everything's pretty much on the website.
Okay.
I do have all the podcasts you can listen to are on the website as well.
And I will put a link to that in the show notes, and also to the couple of the resources you mentioned, as well. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Martika, and for being my guest today.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
And remember, when you unleash your heart, you unleash your life. Much love.